Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where it's about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Wednesday, Season 1, Episode 4. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So at the beginning, we had Wednesday and Thing breaking into the medical examiner's the morgue and everything. And it was really interesting that we found out that apparently this creature not only has been killing people, but it's also been stealing body parts, which is so interesting because you're like, right, that's so interesting because also they said that in this particular case, the latest victim was missing two toes. So it's and they were surgically removed, and it's this thing is killing people very rapidly. It's just kind of it's just like an animal tech. How would it have the wherewithal to do something surgical? But it's also we never got to see Rowan's body. We have no idea whatever happened to it. I guess Weems must have disposed of it so that no one, not unless her and Thornhill are in that together, but they must have done something with Rowan's body because obviously it was never found and stuff, so... Was their body part stolen from him too? If so, what? Is this thing legitimately just keeping trophies? Or is it a situation, or is there something more at play here? Because later on Wednesday and Eugene find its cave, potentially its lair, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there, but it's not human remains, it's venison, it's deer and stuff. And there's chains in there like you'd see with a werewolf situation of someone who is trying to control their transformation. And the only time we really see this creature, most of the time, has been at night, with the exception of when Wednesday ran into it last episode. It was during a cloudy time. So I think this Hyde person locks himself up when they are out of control, and someone either leads VIDS there, or it brings it the whatever it needs there ahead of time and chains itself up. I think someone's letting this thing go whenever and that's why anytime it's going on the attack. So it makes me wonder in retrospect, did it actually save Wednesday on purpose, or was it just a happenstance? I mean, it has always killed one victim at a time, and from what we've seen. So, I mean, the fact is it didn't go after Wednesday. It saw Wednesday look at it and it ran away. So maybe it was on purpose, maybe on some human instinct that's still there even if it's transformed. So many questions, but I do believe there's a human element to this. Besides just them being a human, there has to be someone else along with this creature. Jumping ahead a little bit, we saw when Eugene was investigating, someone threw a fire in that pit because they were probably trying to get rid of any DNA evidence, because Wednesday did bring some DNA evidence, like the claw in particular, to the sheriff. Now, whoever it was would have had to have knowledge of knowing that, because he was having a DNA test run. It had to be someone who had to have knowledge of that to do it. Whoever it was, Eugene did see their face. I mean, it could just be they might make it he was blinded by the flashlight, but there's a good chance he saw the suspect's face, and maybe that's why the creature went after him, why it decided to strike now, why it killed Eugene, because I do believe there was a human master element to this going on. So, once again, our list of suspects are kind of, at least when it came to the monster, I don't think obviously it's not Xavier, it doesn't seem like it's Tyler. Those are the number one suspects. I don't think it was Thornhill. So it's the question then becomes who it was. It's Weems is still out there. We know she's a shapeshifter. So I still don't think it was her. So it has to be someone else. Once again, I don't know. I mean, let's not forget, Tyler still wasn't in the scene at the time when he was looking for Wednesday. So it might be something that someone can trigger his transformations, or at least control him while he's transformed or something. Maybe it's almost like a magic flute or siren kind of call to kind of control him, which we do know there are sirens involved in this whole series. So they could be a siren taking advantage of it. I doubt that. I think it's just a straight up human, a normie controlling the monster. But either way, at the crux of the story is the upcoming kind of dance. It's the Raven, which I am a big proponent. I love puns. So it's it's supposed to be Raven, the bird, but it's spelled rave apostrophe N, it's a rave in, it's a rave inside. So I thought that was just kind of a nice play on words. There's also that store, was it haughty culture or whatever. I was like, is that supposed to be like a play on horticulture? I read it as that way, but I was like, nah, maybe I'm being stupid for thinking that. But either way, Wednesday's doing her investigations. Side note, really quickly, because I brought up the morgue stuff, I'm going to circle back to that really quick. I love the whole thing of like her playing dead and the mortician to like touching her face, being like, oh, I don't remember you, but you look pretty dead. And a thing came to pull out. She's like, no, leave me in here for about 5 more minutes. I was just getting comfortable. I love the little zingers from her in this episode. Not zingers, but like these one-liners. There was one later on she had when she was talking to Eugene when they were investigating the cave. She's like, if you hear me screaming bloody murder, that just means I'm having a good time or something like that. So don't be too worried or concerned about me. Once again, I love how backwards Wednesday, but the Addams family in general are. But yeah, to cover her bases with Xavier, who is still her number one suspect now in this episode because she saw the marks on his arm and eventually broke into his place and the art studio and saw all these pictures of the monster. But obviously later on, like, cause he was excited cause he's like, yeah, cause he made her like ask him out. He's like, no, I'm gonna make you, no. She's like, are you really gonna make me do this? And he's like, yeah, I am. And she kind of like, would you go out, you know, and she's stammering to do it. And he's got this like shit-eating grin on his face going like, yeah. And it's like, yeah, I've been waiting for you to ask me out. So she's reluctant about it, and it's all a means to an end, but he legitimately does like Wednesday, so when he finds out it was just a ruse, it is kind of heartbreaking, but you can tell it also affected Wednesday too, because she's not really good at the emotions thing, because, you know, sadly, she feels like emotions are a weakness, and she doesn't want to be vulnerable, she doesn't want to be weak around anyone anymore, so she's cut herself off, but I think it still affects her when she saw how upset he was. I think she can register a lot of that stuff. It doesn't fully hit the core, but even later on she admits she wishes that she cared a little bit more because she realizes she can be inconsiderate to how people feels, like if she was more aware of it, because like, right, her and Tyler have been vibing, but it never probably crossed her mind to think that Tyler liked her. I don't know if it even registers to her that people might like her, you know. So I just think that's kind of an interesting, because the moment he found out she was going with Xavier, he was like, oh, like, what about, like, what we've been having? Like, I thought we kind of liked each other. And she's just like, right, I've got too much, like, on my mind right now, and I'm trying to prioritize everything. He's like, well, get back in touch with me whenever you do, like, decide to put me at the top of your priorities. And I do love Thing playing matchmaker, writing that letter, typing it up from her typewriter and leaving it. And even Tyler being, yeah, it was really nice and it was really sweet, you know? And I'm like, that should have been a dead ringer that it wasn't actually from Wednesday. You should have been like, yeah, someone else wrote this, wasn't it? Because it's sweet. That's kind of not your thing. But for Tyler, it's probably like no, like you had the dark and brooding and non-emotional thing going on. But deep down, he's probably like, your sun shines and rainbows, that there's a deep, like sweet sugar and spice, adding a little Powerpuff Girls to that. It seems like Eugene's like the only person who didn't have an actual dance partner, because he knew, like, he wanted to send Enid like a present. He was like, right, here's some honey. It's like, right, she's not going to reciprocate this, but he's like, no, like, I know I have 0% chance. I have less than but I still have somewhat of a chance. So he's like, right, I'm playing the long game until she kind of realizes who I am. And Wednesday's like, right, you don't need some dumb like dance to validate who you are. Just kind of get other people to validate who you are. He's like, oh, so you're not going either? And she's like, oh, actually I am. It's like, oh, he thought he found a comrade in arms of like, yeah, you're not going to this thing. Oh, even you have a date. Cool. So he's like, yeah, this is supposed to be my lonely partner in crime. It's like, wait, you have a date. Oh man, which is so sad. But I do appreciate the friendship that they've really developed over these past. I mean, obviously, like she was there for. I mean, she's the first person to really join, like, really talk to him and get to know him. So I think for him, this is the first friend he's really had in who knows how long. And so now it's also like, cool, I don't get to go to the dance. And apparently, Enid wasn't apparently too receptive about the honey. I mean, to be fair, she's not the biggest fan of the bees. We already know that. So maybe the honey from them wasn't that big of a deal. Or maybe she doesn't recognize that he likes her. Because he was saying, like, right, if I give her this gift, like, it's a long game. But eventually, maybe she'll finally see me, which I thought was, like, really heartbreaking. Because it's like, yeah, that's all anyone wants. We all want that validation. We all want to be seen for who we are, you know? I mean, maybe that's even Wednesday's issues with her mom, where it feels like, in her mind, it's like, my mom and dad have such expectations of what they want from me. They want me to be them. They can't see me for me. They're so busy trying to make me a mini version of them. And especially when it comes to her mom, it's like, instead of letting me just be me, they can't see me as Wednesday Addams. They just see me as, the daughter of Gomez and Morticia type of situation, you know? Which, speaking of Gomez, there was this whole situation where Weems does not have the best memories of the Raven because she was going to go with someone, but that was kind of all dash when Morticia stole her date. So I'm assuming, I was like, oh, was she secretly in love with Gomez? Is that why she has like all kind? Like, I knew there was some like spice and some heat between her and Morticia. I mean, once again, she burned Morticia's picture at the end of last episode. So there's always been this kind of like weird feeling. So it's like there's like some like form of pride she has towards Wednesday, like seeing Wednesday have fun and kind of cut loose and doing her thing. But I think there's also that constant reminder of like, yes, you're Morticia's daughter. So I don't know. I don't know if there's some deep-seated thing of like, right, I'm going to mold you into a different person because I know you have such beef with your mom. And what beautiful irony would it be if I melded you more into being me and I was the one that forged you into who you are Wednesday rather than your own mom. Not unless there's some like deeper like psychological stuff Williams got going on from that point of view. I don't know. I also love that Thing got the dress for Wednesday. It's like, oh, how'd you get it? The 5-finger discount, which I'm like, that doesn't come up enough for me to talk about how much I love that phrasing for stealing something. It's like, you can get it with the 5-finger discount. I don't know why I love that phrasing so much. But I also thought it was so cute when he's sitting on like the bars of her bed. She's like, right, don't watch me while I'm changing. And he's turned and like his fingers are like 2 legs and he's kicking his fingers. I was like, that's actually really cool and super cute. Yeah, it's actually kind of really adorable. It's almost like mimicking him kicking his legs. I thought that was so neat. Obviously, Wednesday showing up with Tyler was not what Xavier wanted. In fact, he didn't like it at all because he ended up going with Bianca, which I was like, okay, that's probably all kinds of complicated. But yeah, when Wednesday showed up, basically stealing the show, I was about to say, is there going to be an issue with Tyler? But it's like, no, because Lucas was already there. I guess it's like a thing of like anyone can go, even normies. But, and which was like, hey, I figured something had to be up when Lucas was asking Enid. I mean, granted, he was like, oh, you're Wednesday's roommate. So I wondered, did he actually know ahead of time? But then, because it didn't seem like it, because he's like, wait, Wednesday Addams is your roommate. I think he knew he was going to take advantage of it, but maybe finding out that Wednesday was her roommate maybe extra, like, made him go like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to get my revenge now. Like, maybe that's what, I don't know, maybe the plan was always that, and maybe he doubled down upon Enid revealing that information. Either way, it's sad because Lucas was all about ruining the fun, but him and Enid actually hit it off because he realized like, oh wow, you're actually pretty cool. It's like, wait, you follow hockey? Like, they hit it off, and he wanted to second guess it, but then it was like his buddy was like, no, we're actually doing all this for you. Remember, you're the one that wanted to get revenge. And they helped. This episode, interestingly enough, did kind of pull a little bit of a Carrie, which I thought was interesting. But the problem is, it's a reverse Carrie because everyone else was like upset by it. And the Carrie in the middle of all this was Wednesday. She didn't care. In fact, she loved it. She was like, yeah. Wait, oh my God, they couldn't even be bothered to get actual pig's blood. It's, what'd she say? It's paint. She was so disappointed. Once again, I love that. It's like, yeah, I do feel like it's a little bit of a reverse Carrie in that regard. So I think that's the homage they were kind of going for. I do really like that. I mean, everyone else was really bothered by it except for Tyler. Tyler wasn't too shaken by it. Just kind of almost like and maybe that speaks volumes, about him. I did like really quickly, I did like the dance sequence. At the time of me recording this, it's Friday night. I want to say, it was actually today, I saw it on YouTube. I didn't watch it, but like it's on YouTube if you want to go watch. I want to say it's the whole scene, maybe it's not. But I want to say Netflix uploaded it to their YouTube channel, the dance scene. Once again, I saw it uploaded today. I just didn't watch it, but I didn't have context for it. Didn't realize it was going to be one of the episodes I ended up watching today. In my head, I was thinking, like, oh, that must be later in the season. It's like, no, it's episode 4, interestingly enough. But yeah, like, I do like kind of like almost like almost like kind of doing that. I don't know if that's supposed to be like just an Addams Family thing, or because immediately in my head I'm like, oh, it's the Monster Mash. Like, especially when she kind of does the claws, and she kind of does the side to side and do it just kind of like doing her thing. Kind of reminds me of Lonely Island's Do the Creep, Do the Creep, with Nicki Minaj. It kind of reminds me of that song a little bit too. Just like kind of like the dance maneuver a little. Just yeah. Either way, but I do love that everyone else kind of joined in too. It's like, yeah, look at Wednesday being the trendsetter. It's sad too because Xavier was so upset by. He's like, right, take off your pendant, Bianca, make me forget that I even like her. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. The reason why we broke up in the first place is because you accused me of using my powers. You didn't know if you can trust me, and now you're asking me to use my powers and make you get over a girl. It's like, yeah, it's like, so that kind of screwed over Xavier twice. It's like, cool, you were hoping to be with Bianca to help you forget about Wednesday, but it didn't help. Which Xavier did kind of tell her about what happened. We found out what their beef was. What's the issue between Xavier and Tyler? So there was like a art display thing he was doing last year, and apparently even Tyler admits, it's like, no, I could give you millions of excuses why I did it. He's like, even I'm still trying to figure it out. That for him, he's like, yeah, I got sent to this boot camp thing, and I didn't want to be the angry townie. I wanted to be a different person. Because I was about to say, like, he does seem super mellow, especially in comparison to his dad, but maybe that's kind of where a little bit of that rubbed off on him, was kind of a little bit of his dad. And so he does say, like, oh, it didn't just stop there. He does feel like he went too far. And he's like, Xavier had every reason to kind of get back at me, but he never quite did. So, but ultimately, Wednesday said, like, right, you thought I was going to be mad at you just because of a prank? She's like, a lousy prank? If it was me, I would have went further. And he's like piranhas in a pool. And she's almost like, how'd you know? He's like, I did some digging on you when we first met. And he's like, right, he does. Well, he probably didn't even have to use his father's resources as a cop to make that happen. It's probably just it's probably public enough information that all he had to do was look her up to find out. So that was interesting. Really quickly, circling back to Xavier, we found out, I didn't finish this, but the whole him seeing the monster thing, apparently he's been having dreams about it. So I was like, are you having visions and stuff too? Like, are you, well, to be fair, it's like, right. I was about to say, are you a seer? It's like, yo, duh. His dad's a seer. So of course, like, it might not be as strong in him, but it's there to some extent. And he's been dreaming of it, and obviously the dream, like, the only way he can like handle and deal with it is if he draws it out. So it is what I thought. Basically, one of his drawings came to life and it attacked him. That's why he got the claw mark on his neck. And what I thought was something, I didn't know if it was something he was doing on purpose, or because I knew, like I said, his hands were like covered in, like, it looked like charcoal at the time, but maybe it was actually blood from him like holding against his neck. Which Wednesday did take that cloth and the claw that her and Eugene found and took it to the sheriff, because it's like, hey, let's collaborate together, find you some concrete evidence. Once again, the DNA test being run for someone to go and try and burn down that cave to get rid of any evidence that might have been there means someone had to have known about the sheriff running that DNA, like that paperwork must have went through somebody official for that to kind of be known, so I don't know, still, because whoever it is, it's got to be whether it's the monster, whether it's the person behind the monster, they've both got to be people we know. That's just the point of a whole mystery thing, which I did appreciate the sheriff being like, okay, Vilma, you and the Scooby Gang. It's like, to be fair, she is kind of Vilma on her own, which is interesting timing too, because they are making, I want to say isn't it Mindy Kaling is making an animated Vilma thing for HBO Max, I believe. I think so, and I think it's just a Vilma thing. I don't think it's. I could be mistaken. I think it's just a Vilma thing that she's making. But I could. So it's just interesting timing. But also, I think it's interesting because you're like, oh, the Scooby Gang. It's like, well, the Scooby Gang the whole thing implies a gang. It's like she's by herself. She doesn't. I mean, to be fair, it's like, well, there's Tyler, there's Eugene, there's Enid, there's also Xavier. So it's like, all right, I can see a Scooby Gang following. It's like, well, who's the Scooby Doo? It's like, well, obviously Thing. So it actually works out a lot better than I thought. But she would not think of them as the Scooby Gang, but it actually fits, narratively speaking, very well. So I actually kind of have to take that back. I mean, he wouldn't know enough about her to know that she does have her own little squad, because she is very like a lone wolf in this, and he kind of is as well. I think that's kind of the parallel going on here between these two characters, kind of obsessed with this whole situation. Obviously, the whole Raven situation was ruined because of Lucas and his guys, and he legitimately felt bad when Enid was like, wait, I was so stupid, I like bought into your bull crap, I thought you liked me, and he was starting to like her, and he does regret what he did, and I think he'll hopefully make up for it and not be a complete and utter douchebag. I mean, to be fair, from the very beginning, like Wednesday was like, oh yeah, you've already got 2 strikes, so this was kind of a 3rd strike, especially if Enid tells him. But her and Ajax kind of made up at the end. He admits, like, right, I was too embarrassed to tell you, I kind of stoned myself. And it's like, oh, we should take this slow. And they begin to then vigorously make out. So at least they made up in the end. So I'm glad, I guess I was like, oh, I guess he was just too embarrassed to tell her about what happened. It's understandable. Like, I could see why that'd be embarrassing for a Gorgon, like, to be in that complicated space. There was also this very nice moment in between Wednesday and Bianca where Bianca talked a little bit about, I forgot what the phrasing was. It was something about her mom, because like Wednesday had referenced like, oh, whoever like invented Hills or basically was big into torture or something like that. And it's just like, right, she was basically, Bianca was like, you're kind of lucky or whatever. Well, it started with her, because Wednesday was like, oh, what it means to be like beautiful and popular. But for Bianca, it's the tough thing of like, yes, Xavier's issues with her are kind of her own internal issue too. Like, yes, she has an amulet that will diminish her abilities, but it's not like foolproof. It's kind of like a Band-Aid, truth be told. And she says that, how can she ever be 100% feel that, like, the people around her, do they actually like her for her, or is it just her power seeping through? So the issues that Xavier had with her, it's him probably saying that cut so deep, because, once again, it's that thing of, you can say something to yourself 1,000,000 times, but the moment another person points out the thing you've been thinking to yourself, it cuts that so deep, because you're like, wait, so other people do feel like that. When you're like, oh, XYZ about myself, and then someone says that exact thing, it's like, oh my God, I've been thinking about that but thinking that to myself, and now someone else is saying it, so it must be true. Like, it's making her worst fear come true. And she says that Wednesday's lucky that she doesn't care about what people say. Once again, it's something that Thornhill says, like, right, don't ever let other people define you. But like I brought up earlier, Wednesday's rebuttal to that being like, I wish I cared at least a little more than I do. Because once again, she is kind of bummed about being inconsiderate to the feelings of those around her. So kind of makes you go like, I mean, with any situation, when someone is the way they are, typically, like, especially in Bianca's case being Miss Popular, it's like, yeah, she puts up that front, she acts that way because she's overcompensating for some deep-seated insecurities. The same thing for bullies. Bullies are usually overcompensating for the fact is of maybe they've got issues in their own lives that just aren't, that's making them lash out, or maybe they themselves were bullied. It's usually an overcompensation for something in their own lives. So Bianca kind of falls in that same category as well, like, so. The moment Eugene went out in the woods by himself, I was like, oh, please don't do that, Eugene. Please don't, please don't, please don't, please don't. And sadly, Wednesday ended up having a vision, but I think it does speak volumes. She happened to touch someone and the vision's activated. And if we notice, it was someone in a white jacket she bumped into. So I was like, right, you'd feel like, because usually the visions are correlated and connected to something. So whoever it was might have been either the person controlling the creature or the creature itself. I'm assuming it's got to be the person who controls the creature. So, but they were out there destroying evidence, so there's no way they would have been able to get back to the party in time, right? Because whoever it was, because like people she bumped into were people wearing white, so only like it was mainly males, I believe. Because I think those are who she was bumping into. I don't think she was bumping into any of the ladies, because I know Thornhill and Weems were wearing white, but I don't think it was either one of them. Could have been, but I wonder, are we going to find out that Christina Ricci's character of Thornhill is going to end up being the main antagonist or something? Obviously, like, she's up to something kind of shady, but we don't know what. I've thrown out my theories last episode that she's connected to the Nightshade Society, and that maybe she was here years ago when Gomez was here, or maybe it has some correlation with the human he supposedly murdered. The normie that was murdered here like 30 years ago, and maybe that has something to do with Gomez's, the murder he's associated with. So I threw all that out last episode and still could fill into that a little bit. But by the time Wednesday gets to Eugene, he's already been clawed up. But Thornhill's like, is he alive? And we don't know. It seems like he might be dead, but he might be in like a coma type of situation fighting for his life. We don't know how that plays out. But like, regardless of it all, Wednesday will beat herself up. It's like, because she got Eugene involved in all of this. So it's like, if I hadn't done that, we also don't know about the DNA results that are going to come back. It's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.